I'm standing here in front of my 1977 Airstream Argosy 26-foot camper trailer. And how this came to join our family is an interesting and enjoyable story. Hopefully you'll stick around to learn more about my journey with Airstreams and Argosys and our proposed journey with this one. Well, I've been interested in Airstreams for really probably more than 20 years and kind of put it down on our goal list, my family and I, as something we'd like to get our hands on and start paying attention to, maybe see if we could find one that we could purchase. And my interest started, kind of coincidentally with the beginning, I think, of the rise in value of Airstreams in the used market. When we first started looking, Craigslist, other things, we'd see, pretty nice, usable Airstreams that we could get for, a few $1,000s. And then we just started to see those prices creeping up. And, now, as I'm sure you are aware, Airstreams are very valuable. Even in unrestored, pretty well used condition, they can still go for quite a bit of money. And the brand new ones, of course, are six figures. So, I think that's a testament to what they look like, to their durability, to their functionality. They've just kind of withstood the test of time. So, as we were out looking for, a model that we could obtain, as my wife likes to say, we kind of set that goal. We became, I think, a little bit more conscious of Airstreams and of Argosys in the marketplace. We saw them, we would see them on the road. We just became more aware. So conversationally, we would occasionally have these discussions with friends of the family, with family members of our children's friends, and just about camping and camping trailers and things. And that led to a conversation that my wife had with some acquaintances involved in a high school play with their kids and our kids. They had an Airstream Argosy that they had had in their family for two generations. They had purchased it from their parents, and their kids were now growing up and leaving the house, and they thought that we would be a good steward of it, and they offered it to us for a really attractive price. I think we paid somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000 for it. Then we got a hold of that and started kind of fixing it up, improving it. I put a new water heater in it. I put a new furnace in it. I completely redid all the plumbing from the old copper to new PEX, and various other little kind of modest improvements to make it functional and reliable. And we started going out on adventures with it. We took it nearby, a lot of kind of staycations. We happened to live in eastern Idaho at that time, and so we took it to areas around the Grand Tetons up towards Yellowstone, those types of locations, and really enjoyed having it. About that time, near the same amount of time, I would say maybe 2 years later, we saw pop up on Facebook Marketplace, when that was kind of a new thing and beginning to get some traction. We saw an Airstream, an aluminum Airstream, come up for sale for a really attractive price. I want to say, again, around $2,000 or $3,000. This one was very, very, very dirty. It wasn't damaged, but it was dirty. And I mean that in the sense of it had been very well used as probably a hunting camp trailer year over year over year without a lot of attention in cleaning it up. But it was in pretty good structural condition, and we pounced on that and we bought that. And So for a little while, we had both the Airstream Argosy and an Airstream, and in both cases, they were about 26 footers, 2-axle 26 footers. With the Airstream, I decided initially to try to clean it up. And when I say dirty, I mean bacon grease stuck to every, I mean, it was just impossible to truly clean up. And so I made the decision, since we already had the Argosy, to convert that into kind of a little bit of a modified dwelling unit. And so I stripped out all of the built-in furniture from the bathroom forward and created it as a little bit of an office kind of man cave kind of retreat. I had a day bed in there. The bathroom was functional. And then had a built-in desk that I made, and enjoyed that, and kind of used that for some fun, exciting things. So those two vehicles, those two trailers, were our first experience with Airstreams. So we don't have either of those anymore, though, and that's part of our story today. The Airstream, the aluminum Airstream, became the mission control center for a startup business that I partnered with an individual on in eastern Idaho, and in fact used it to hire our first employees. I placed it on the property of an historic abandoned building that we purchased and renovated into our new business headquarters. And that's a story for a different time in a different video, but that Airstream was absolutely crucial in setting up what continues to this day as a very successful business. I'm not involved in it anymore, but I do take tremendous credit for having been a key member of the partnership in getting it off the ground. Part of that journey, though, led me to move back to my wife's hometown of Missoula, Montana. And in that move, I brought my Argosy up to Missoula and located an RV park. Well, actually, I located a mobile home park near to my future office that was willing to let RVs park on mobile home pads. And so I moved that up here, and that was home for the starts of my new business venture. And I remember that very fondly, that time. I enjoyed being able to stay in that trailer that I had fixed up and made very personally comfortable. But in order to make payroll, as many startup stories might share, I had to sell it. I had to sell that Argosy to raise enough cash to make payroll at the company and keep the doors open. And I was able to move into my sister-in-law's basement for a period of time. During those startup days, I put every dollar that I had into this business that I now own and operate. And I'm delighted that we've been successful. So the Argosy gone for the startup business. The Airstream aluminum sold after the startup in eastern Idaho to another family doing a similar project in the Jackson, Wyoming area. So I know that's in good hands. And driving for work one day from Missoula to Great Falls, I drove Highway 200 in Montana. It's kind of a famous state highway, through a little town called Lincoln, and just a few weeks ago, and I saw on the side of the road an Airstream Argosy for sale, little teeny for sale sign, but it was parked in such a way on the front of this rural property that it was a pretty good bet it was for sale. And so I did a U-turn, zipped over, took a photo. It was locked. I couldn't get into, couldn't open and look at it, but I was able to see through the windows, took some pictures. It was for sale for a much, much lower price than anything that I had been seeing for the last, few years. And so we called and were the first callers, and made a commitment to go purchase it that weekend, and when we confirmed our appointment for completing the purchase, picking it up and bringing it home, the seller indicated that he had received more than 100 inquiries from people that wanted to buy it. So we were delighted that we were number one. So we purchased it, hauled it back home. Man, am I glad to have an Airstream Argosy back in the family. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to show you a tour of the vehicle here in just a minute. Well, let's take a quick tour of the outside of this Airstream Argosy. As I mentioned, this is a 1977 model, very much near the end of the run of Argosy as a brand within the Airstream line. On the front, you can see we have a manual jack. We have 2 propane tanks. I have some much nicer aluminum ones that I hope to get recertified that'll go in place of this. We have the water tank filler right over here on the face. We have a light set, minimal light set. You'll notice this is painted and purposefully painted from the factory. Most Airstreams, as you know, are I guess, unfinished aluminum or polished aluminum. We do have the setup for the anti-sway tow package. Just go around this outside edge. You'll see we do have the lip to install the awning, but there is no awning and no awning jacks. So that's an accessory we might look into getting. Continue down to this side. Let me close the door for a minute so we can look behind it. This right here is the vent to the stock furnace. This here is the hood above the stove, the vent for that cooktop. It's a 2-axle system here. We have a little bit of ding type stuff in the body, but for the most part, all things considered, it's a pretty clean unit. Storage right here. The jacks are manual. The support to leveling jacks, they have a key that goes right here on this bolt that adjusts those feet up and down so you can level and stabilize. Okay, the rear of the Argosy, you can see we do have a travel pack on the back here where we store the sewer pipes, the shore power cable, and other little accessories. All of that stuff mounts to this side. You can see we have the drain right here. We have the freshwater input right there, and then we have the valve control there. Okay, going around this side, we're in the shade a little bit, but this door right here is where the battery goes, the rechargeable battery. This next door is the water heater. We go along this side. This door here was the access to the 3-fuel or tri-fuel fridge that's been removed. We'll show you on the inside in a moment what they've done there. And then this is the addition of an aftermarket Renai furnace. I'm sure it keeps it warm, but it causes some conflict. We'll look at that with the interior tour. Up on the top, that's the vent for the old tri-fuel fridge. We do have the air conditioning unit up there, and we have the collapsible old school antenna that can be converted with a kit into a modern HD antenna setup. And then if you'll notice at the very top, right there, we have 3 of the adjustable rooftop vents to vent this thing. So that's a quick view of the outside of this Argosy. It obviously is in pretty good condition. It's one of the reasons I was attracted to it. No common dents in the front and quarter panels, if we can call them that. The rear quarter panels, there are obviously some areas where the paint is beginning to slough off. That's totally normal and expected for something this old. So certainly we'll get through the leaves thing here and we can look a little bit more closely at some of the aluminum peeling going on here and there. But otherwise, excellent condition, makes an excellent candidate for either a renovation or a full-on restoration project. So I'm excited to share that project with you guys. All right, let's go inside and take a tour of the inside of this trailer. we come into what is the living room. From the factory, you would have expected to find what's called a gaucho couch bed conversion sitting here over the fresh water tank. That's been removed. It might have broken or something. It's gone, so that's something we'll have to deal with. The blue Barca lounger came with it when I purchased it. That's going to get tossed. Some of the Argosys would have had located up in this front drawer set a radio and maybe even an electrical control center. That doesn't seem to have been a feature of this one from the get-go, so we'll have to look at where all that is, partly because there are speakers wired throughout, and those normally would have gone to the head unit in there. You can see here the Rinnai heater has been installed where the fold-out table used to be. That fold-out table is a very handy device, and so we hope to restore that, maybe get the gaucho couch bed back in place and get the table back in place and either relocate that Rinnai or not use it at all. If we look underneath the kitchen area, or I guess we'll look at the kitchen area, here's the vent hood I showed you with the outside ventilation. Here is the cooktop and a small propane range. This broken glass is only on the outside, so I can probably get some tempered glass and fix that. Down underneath here is the furnace. It's present, but it may or may not be in good condition. These were fairly famous for rusting out and becoming a health hazard in the old school. You can, however, get new ones very inexpensively and replace that. I've done that before, and we may do that again. Over here, you have the cabinet that used to have the 2/3 tall tri-fuel fridge. It would have been powered by shore power, 12-volt DC, and propane. That's gone, and they've just put a shore power only fridge in here, so that'll have to be looked at and probably replaced with a more trailer-friendly fridge. Got an old school propane lamp in here. That would have come straight from the factory, but not necessarily the safest thing in a modern world, so that may just be an artifact that we keep. Food pantry right here. And then under the sink storage, one of the things that I noticed about this is that all of these doors really move nicely. They're an excellent repair. That is very uncommon. I'm very pleased about that. So here we have the double bed and kind of bedroom setup, cupboards, cabinetry. Have to think about that. We may leave that way. We may modify this room. Have to look into that. Again, up above bed storage. This is unique. This, let's see if we can do this one-handed. This is the gun locker that came in this Sportsman Edition. This is, in fact, the Sportsman Edition, and the primary feature was just this drop-down gun locker cabinet. So that's kind of interesting. Got some storage here with pull-outs over the wheel wells. This has been blocked in. Oh, so that we have a locker storage through here. Okay, so there's underbed storage in there. Then closet. And then ultimately the bathroom. And again, the sliding door slides really, really nicely. That is uncommon. Not a lot of light in here. Apologize for that. I think that the tub shower is okay, but it might have a crack in it. We'll look into that. And then this here is where some of the plumbing and electrical equipment are, including the inverter and battery charger. One of the things that I will say right now is that it is in better physical condition, structural condition, than the one that I had and sold. There are no significant dents in the body, anything like that, and the paint's in better condition. The one that we had, a lot of the paint had fallen, a lot more of the paint had fallen off. So, you know, it's a good trailer to start work on. But much of what I had done, I get to do again. I think that we're going to be replacing the furnace. I think that we're going to be fixing the plumbing with PEX. to eliminate that weakness of freezing those copper lines. We'll be checking the propane tank and supply lines to make sure that those don't have any leaks. See if I can fix some of the other items that you'll see in the tour. So this is the start of a project of basically bringing this Airstream Argosy back to functional use. So my question for you guys is, should we fix it up, clean it up, make it functional, or should we go a step further and do a complete renovation or restoration? Those vehicles, if you look around on YouTube, you're going to find some fascinating projects, some Argosys especially, that are really, really interesting and beautiful. They're just beautiful. I love the painted look. I do like the Airstream aluminums, but I am personally attracted to the Argosy painted jobs. And so, I could be probably persuaded to look into that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that topic.